I'd like to call to order the Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting for October 17th, 2017. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal?
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Here.
Mr. Singer?
Here.
Mr. Hennies?
Here.
Mr. Ober?
Here. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. We'll start off with student achievement. Dr. Glykoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to introduce high school principal Annie Hostettler. Give you a little preview. Just a couple of weeks back, we had several of our student athletes go down to Columbus and attend a kind of a leadership conference. And so I know a couple of our administrators went down with some of our students who are here tonight, and they wanted to talk a little bit about their experience. So, Ms. Hostettler.
I had read once that the number one factor in predicting success later in life is the students' participation in school activities. And studies have shown that participation in these extracurricular events like student council, sports, HPAC is even greater factor in predicting this future success than grade point average and ACT scores. And I believe that this is because students learn so many important lessons throughout these types of experiences like teamwork, hard work, discipline, working with others, looking out for something bigger than oneself, setting goals. These are just examples of why we've made it a priority at the high school to give as much leadership training to our students as we have. And in the past couple of years, we've been able to offer leadership training to our student council, to our HPAC teams, to our AVID students, and then most recently, we had two of our administrators take a number of our student athletes who who we hope set an example and do set an example for their peers to a leadership training that's a free service to Ohio High School Athletic Association members. And I would like to introduce those students that are here this evening. They couldn't all be with us. Some of them have some extracurricular obligations tonight with soccer and so forth, but we do have four here. I would like to let those students introduce themselves and then tell you a little bit about what they learned at the conference. So if they would come up, please.
I'm Seth Majeski.
I'm Melissa Helmick. I'm Kelsey Bruzak.
I'm Hunter Majeski. When we went there was a guy, his name was Juan Du, and he was an American Ninja Warrior. And he told us that whenever somebody says anything negative, that to just tune them out and to just put on a different thing in your head and just think positive about yourself.
Another guy that had talked there was Omar Pearson. He hadn't started playing basketball until he was in high school because the coach seen him in the hallway and he was like ridiculously tall. And he ended up being drafted to one of the NBA teams after college, and he had talked about how if you have a plan, you can find your dreams, but if you don't have a plan, it'll just be a destiny. So he talked about the 6 P's of life. Having proper prior planning prevents poor performance. So if you just have your plan, get your friends and your teammates on board, and you can be successful with whatever you put your mind to.
One remark I want to make is about Matt Barnes. He made a quote that said, "A leader is one that knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way." And it really will help me out in sports. And he just shared a story about how he was an athlete, and then he took his own career path to go to be, now he's an NBC reporter. And then he was showing how to overcome adversity, to have the right mindset, stop making excuses was his biggest point. Because he said excuses will bring you down, and they will just make you do worse than your actual potential.
One person that I got something from was Mr. Harvey, and he talked about why we do certain things, even though we might not want to. It's because it's the right thing to do, and that really stood out to me.
you can see that these 4 student athletes are very good examples of students that we have at the high school, and they really enjoyed themselves in Columbus for the day. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think that those students, you know, they were all, as I look at them, they're multiple sport athletes. And one of the things that was purposeful about this is they brought down students, freshmen through juniors. So these are going to be some of our leaders, not only this year at Brooklyn High, but also in the years to come. So this has been an opportunity that OHSAA has offered students and student athletes. So I think it was a good one to kind of bring our students down there and kind of bring some of that stuff back. So I appreciate their efforts and appreciate them taking a day from school to go down there to do that. And thanks for sharing that tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to go on to the student achievement. Or where are they? I'm sorry. Superintendent's report.
Sure. Thanks again on that. You know, in the spring, I spoke with you as the board, and I talked about the creation of a district climate task force. That task force comprised of a lot of different staff members in various capacities who could look at some of the district's issues around school climate and begin really developing some action steps around it. Some of the areas included, you know, looking at discipline, looking at internet safety, with some of our older students, distracted driving, substance abuse, and certainly the issue of bullying. That was a concern.
Yep.
So when you think about that and you think about creating a positive climate, why is that so important? Why is that something that this task force was developed for? Certainly because it maximizes learning. It allows our students to get to their potential and be able to feel comfortable and focus in on their studies. So one of the questions the group looked at is, what does a positive climate look like? What does that look like? You know, it's a setting where students obviously can learn best. It's a setting where students work in groups or individually with adults on skills, social skills. A setting where respect is given from staff members and students to each other. It's a setting where teachers, counselors, administrators work with students regularly on how to interact best and appropriately. It's a setting where students seek out trusted adults in situations that they feel uncomfortable or there's some angst. And if they feel uncomfortable for whatever reason, hopefully they can approach, you know, the adults at school and talk with them and explain how they're feeling and have support to work through that. So the task force looked at, you know, so what makes kids feel uncomfortable? A situation or a change at home, issues with friends, issues with classmates, feeling picked on. Certainly, you know, bullying has gotten much attention, and in many districts, especially during this month, as it's Bullying Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And so because of that issue, the task force really made that its first priority. They said, well, let's really concentrate some efforts on that. And that's where I want to introduce, you know, Mrs. Paula Jones, our Director of Student Services, and also Officer Dan Meadows, who is our Student Resource Officer here at school. Because they've been kind of shepherding this task force, and I want them to discuss some of the work that this group has done, but also some of the efforts that are going to be continuing on with that. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Jones and Officer Dan. So.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Most of you already know me, I'm Officer Dan. So to begin with, the School Climate Task Force, who are we? We were first established last year in 2016-2017. We are a district-wide task force, and members include teachers, support staff, building administrators, the Director of Pupil Services, and myself. What is our goal? Our goal is to maintain a safe and positive learning environment for our students and staff. Dr. Glykoff referred to certain initiatives. Our current focus is positive student interpersonal interactions and relationships and anti-bullying. Possible future topics include internet safety, substance abuse, and distracted driving. Now recently, district-wide, we did what's called a hands pledge. All students involved took a pledge that they, oops, should come up, there we go. They pledged, this is the pledge they all took. They pledged to use their words to speak in a kind way. They pledged to help others as they go through the day. They pledged to care for the earth. Healing hands, they pledged to respect people, each other. With that, they signed these hands that we placed around the building in different places. Some of you that were here for parent-teacher conferences might have seen them. That was on a district level. We also, on individual school levels, have also other age-appropriate or grade-specific programs that were used, and Paula will talk about those.
So at the elementary school, something that's been ongoing is called a Second Step program, which our counselor is here today, and she works with students in small groups and does skills for learning, teaching empathy, how to manage their emotions, and how to problem solve with each other. There's also the Canes Pledge, which they say daily, to be caring and safe, a team player, nice and responsible, respectful to everyone, and super for our school. At the intermediate level, the kids participated in Kindness in Chalk, and if you were lucky enough to be around before the last storm hit, our sidewalks were beautiful with all kinds of great messages from the kids about being kind to each other and what being kind could do for you, but also do for someone else. At the high school, there was a student initiative, actually, that in their photo class, they decided to tackle the issue from a really interesting and creative way. They,
Say it twice.
So they decided to take pictures in various ways about, you see a negative mind, will never give you positive life, stop bullying, reminder to ask for help when you need it. In other words, kind of went by very quickly, but this was all a student initiative. And,
Where's the other one? There's the other one.
and these are posted in the high school. So a lot to be proud of, that they were so creative and serious about the project.
There's some people back there that can't hear.
Okay. I don't have a mic.
No, we just have to speak.
I will just try to talk louder.
Take that one on the table. Down at the end.
So we wanted to touch on reporting methods. That's something that we've educated our students to report incidents. All reports are thoroughly investigated, and anyone can report an issue to the district. It's not just has to be that involved. We've also taught the students who trusted adults are. Brooklyn City Schools is committed to providing a safe learning environment for all students. Students are encouraged to immediately inform a trusted adult at any time. These trusted adults have been pointed out to our students. The two posters you see up here were student-inspired trusted adult posters that you could find throughout the high school. I have to say, I wasn't aware that they were doing that, and when I saw that, it made me walk up. I think some people at conferences in the cafeteria were the same way. They walked up, and then if you read the bottom, they say, if you're being bullied or care about someone else, you really need to. His name is, and this is Mr. Ross. He's one of our high school counselors, and he can help. You can find him in the guidance office on the first floor. So I thought that was a kind of a creative way that the students came up with getting that message out. Now we've told the kids, these are your trusted adults, inside the school building. Clearly I'm one of them. If anybody who has, kids here know, I'm out at the recess, I'm playing sports with them. I mean, spending as much time as I can trying to build that positive relationship. But we also have trusted adults that would include here your teacher, classroom aides or monitors, guidance counselor, principals, and obviously, again, this resource officer. That being said, there might be also a situation where one of you might become a trusted adult outside of the school environment. So outside of school, other trusted adults could include parents, relatives such as a sibling, grandparent, aunt, uncle, a neighbor, maybe a coach, scout leader, other religious groups.
So it's important to know here, your principals, and we have two with us today, Mr. Yarman for the elementary, and Ms. Hostetler is with the high school. And we just wanted to point out, of course, as your kids are moving up, you may know your current principal, but who else in the building might be somebody that you could talk with. We also have a 24/7 hotline that was introduced this summer. And this is the logo, Stay Safe and Speak Up. Pretty much anybody can make a report on this hotline. And any report made would immediately be investigated, and it's tracked, and the status is tracked. We're going to show you actually how to access. So this is our main website, main page. And if you scroll down, this is the bottom of that same page. The logo is to the right bottom, and you would click on that. And then you have two options. You can do an online reporting or telephone. So if you click on online, you're going to be taken to this page where you provide your information. It is optional. And then you would click on the category, because this is not just a bullying reporting hotline, it's a safety reporting hotline. So there are a lot of incidents that could be reported. So for instance, I see suicidal behavior or threats or violence, abuse, alcohol, bullying, harassment, and intimidation is one category in itself. If you were to click on that, you're going to be given a definition of what bullying is before you move on to make a report, so that you can ensure that what you're reporting actually falls into that category. Then you would say the school site in which it occurred. And the next would be if you wanted to report by telephone, they give you a phone number to contact. You press 1 to just leave it on the answering machine, or you press 2 to actually speak with someone in person, and they in turn will make this report to us online. If it's of critical nature, because it's a 24/7 monitored hotline, they actually will, and they have contact information for all of us that they would immediately reach out, if it were something that needed to be reported immediately, such as, I guess, the most drastic would be like a bomb threat.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our current ongoing efforts. Of course, it's continued student education. I'm sorry, step in front of you. That's your second step program in the elementary school, your continued trusted adults, ongoing staff training. That's a built-in part. There are always just throughout the year, I'm sure you guys experience, there's late starts or where the teachers are here in the morning for different professional developments. It's continued ongoing training. And then we're looking at this year doing some kind of a parent information night, maybe teamed up with, we did it in the past, some years back, but we want to get it back again. The social media presentation that some folks from Cuyahoga County will come out and present us. But it's we want to get that information out to you as well.
An ongoing training for staff and for students is called Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. Hopefully this isn't a new term. It's something the district has been using. We are, again, because there's always new staff coming and new initiatives, so we have recommitted to additional training through our local ESC, and each building has developed a team or continues to work with their teams, and will be so the staff is receiving that direct training, but also then working with students on these issues, because I think it's important to recognize that when there are incidents, there's two pathways to respond. There's discipline, which seems the obvious and easiest, but we also need to educate. Students historically, and research will say, don't learn just through discipline. It's important that they be educated on the behaviors that are expected of them. So PBIS helps us do that and helps us teach students how to manage their emotions, how to deal with peer conflict, and various techniques that reduce that emotional tension in the school. Some resources for parents. We do have advisory groups with the principals, both at the intermediate and high school, and I encourage you to reach out to your principals to know when those meetings are held and participate and be a voice in your school. There's also a website for parents called stopbullying.gov, and this is a great website to give you resources for, for instance, cyberbullying. So your child comes home and says, so-and-so put something on Facebook about me. Is this cyberbullying, or what should I do about it? These are some great resources for how to help your child. Because again, if a parent responds and brings something forward, sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes your child doesn't know how to do that, or doesn't have the ability, or they feel afraid to just talk about it. But we also want to educate them. It's all about educating and about teaching them how to handle when there is conflict or something that makes them uncomfortable, what they can do about it. And this provides you with great resources for how to do that.
There's also some resources there in case the situation's occurring outside of the school environment, and maybe not between two students. It could be somebody that they're friends with from a different school, somebody they just met online. So that has a variety of resources and to look at. So, and that is very helpful.
And this is our last slide, and hopefully you all at this point have seen this, but it was sent home with, in one fashion or another by all the schools. Again, just understanding if what's being reported, is it bullying? And they give examples if they're joking around, or if there's conflict, or if it's bullying. Is it a one-time occurrence or ongoing? We talk about the power of prevention, that we're all in this together, and so it's so critical. I mean, going back to the hotline, we can't respond to something we don't know about. And so we really encourage people to consider using the hotline as a way to report to us, because when that report is made, we both get an email, the school administrator gets an email, and so it creates this dialogue and documentation of what's being reported, so that we can immediately investigate that.
Wow. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I got a few comments, and I'm sure you might have some questions for them, Board of Education. First of all, I think we have a couple of the principals, and I believe Susie Marquis, I think I saw her here tonight, who's also a member of that task force, and they've been big parts of that. Also here tonight, I think, was Denise Smith. And when you think about the elementary school, a guidance counselor in that setting is critical. And I know for certain that Mrs. Smith works with groups of kids, does a lot of kind of either individual counseling or group counseling, around different issues that are important to 5 to 8 year olds, and really helps working with them on a daily basis. When you go up to the intermediate school and we talk about how they work with students, you've probably heard us talk about Monday morning meetings, and our intermediate school has that a few times a month. And that meeting is kind of the homeroom. It's kind of a time where they can have discussion about some of these things and how their week's going, or what to plan for, and so forth. Because we always use acronyms in our profession, and PBIS is one of those. But positive behavioral intervention supports is kind of a big kind of name for how do you help create that climate, the positive behavior, how do you encourage that as much as possible? So, I'm proud of this group's efforts, but, we know there's still a lot more to do. We admit that. There's training to our staff that was alluded here. I know we're looking at even our late start on November 1st, really working with some particular groups of our staff about that. continued support and guidance to our students. You know, I know Officer Dan said that. We have to continue to do that. We're going to do some evening event with our parents, informational, talk about some of the issues that are there and how we can best work together to address that. And ultimately do that just so we can create that climate that we want for Brooklyn City Schools so we can be successful, our students and our community. So I appreciate your efforts, folks.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I want to put out scenarios. So I have an elementary school child that is bullied in outside the classroom, perhaps on the school district grounds, and is frustrated. Goes to a trusted advisor and tells that teacher or support staff that they feel that they've been picked on over and over again. So how is that reported back, not only to the principals, but how is that reported back to the parents?
Well, the teacher should talk with the principal, but they also, anybody can make a report on the bullying hotline, or on the reporting hotline. So, they have options for that, and then the principal would take their steps to follow procedures to interview and contact parents and let them know that they're investigating whatever's been reported. But typically, the teacher themselves wouldn't do the investigation. They should be talking with the principal about what's been reported
So the
to
pecking
them.
order is teacher to whom?
I would either say guidance counselor or principal
Yeah.
immediately.
And then the parent is contacted immediately?
Yes.
A guardian?
Yep.
Is there a closed loop aspect to it where the report's made and then is there like a resolution and certain categories for resolution, handled satisfactory, unsatisfactory, followed, needed, or something like that?
There is when there's on the reporting hotline, there are ways to identify that and to kind of document what's been done. So another reason I encourage using it. And I guess that's another reason we want to make sure that everyone's aware that it exists, because to date, we haven't had any reports made through the hotline, and we really want to encourage that as a way so that we have that documentation about what the status is and what's been followed up with that.
Okay.
And just to add to that, Mr. Oper, our board policy does talk about kind of closing the loop, if you will, that there is always kind of that call back to the parent that, you know, here was the situation that was addressed, both in a case of bullying with either the perpetrator or, in this case, there might be a victim. Now, that report may not say, well, here was the discipline that was doled out, but it may say, you know, it was addressed and move forward.
It was resolved, or maybe more follow-up needed?
Exactly.
Do we keep data on how many bullying reports we get every year per building, per grade level? How do we keep it? Do we keep it grade level, building, district-wide? Do we break it down? How is it?
We have to break it by building.
Okay, and then do we do it by grade also, or not by grade?
I'm sure that we could break it down by grade.
Yeah,
I'm sure
that
principals
could be
have that.
extracted. What we're required to monitor is district, and to keep that on the website. So that is on our website under the pupil services drop-down.
Do we keep track of like cyberbullying versus, you know, bullying in our building versus, or do we not have to?
We don't currently, but this
will help us
website
to
is
do
going to
that.
help us do that.
Okay.
Will the board be able to, I know there's privacy issues, look at this material in a category? I don't want individuals, but as far as categories, you know, once a month, once every quarter.
Well, certainly, I mean, everybody has access to the
Okay.
reporting of how many incidents were investigated and how many were substantiated. That's, anybody here could identify that. Then that doesn't have any names attached to it, so.
Okay, appreciate it.
Can you explain why, when you said that discipline wouldn't be listed or wouldn't be told to the other parent, why is that you can't?
It's a FERPA confidentiality piece.
And can you explain what FERPA is? Because, you know, acronyms, not everybody,
FERPA is essentially a federal law that says that, you know, I can't, or any administrator or school district person cannot relay confidential information about one student to the parent of another student. So basically, you wouldn't want, you know, to have your child's discipline or information or personal information shared with another family. So.
Anybody else? Bob?
I'm good.
Anybody else? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Good
folks.
job.
Appreciate it.
Next, we're to go on to comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state her name, and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the board, majority of the board. If anybody'd like to speak, step on up. Anyone?
You know what, I'm gonna speak.
Step on, name and address.
My name is Daniel Brown. My address is 4444 Outlook Drive in Brooklyn here. I've been a lifelong resident of the city. And to be honest, I can't be any more disappointed with the way that this school system is handling the bully than it's handling with my own 3 children. I have a 13-year-old son who goes here who is autistic. I have a 10-year-old son who's in the 4th grade. And I have a 9-year-old son who's in the 3rd grade. Day 1 of school, my middle child was knocked down. It was kind of brushed off under the rug. There was some investigative work. I really didn't press the issue with it, but I still don't think it was handled very thoroughly. Nobody was ever followed up. I received an email from the teacher that witnessed it, not even a phone call. Is it really that hard to pick up the phone anymore? Dial 7 digits, reach out to a parent? Emails are ridiculous. If something happens to somebody's child here, you need a phone call. When it happens, not an email at the end of the day. Unacceptable. Then I get a phone call the other day from the middle school principal that my middle son told one of his friends that he was being bullied and he wanted to kill himself. 10 years old. 10 years old. I know the school can't tell me who's doing it, which I'm fine with that. But then I have to find out from other parents, and then I'm here on parent-teacher conference night, and I'm speaking to other parents while the teachers are on meal breaks. And then I'm speaking to some of the teachers that my children have and some of that my children have. And I ask, isn't there a police officer in the building? They say, yeah. We very rarely see him. So maybe that's something that needs to be addressed. But there's definitely a problem that is going on in this school. I mean, she spoke up here about more training. What's the training that the school is doing? I mean, what are the steps? I mean, my child shouldn't have to fear to come to school, and I shouldn't have to worry about leaving my children for an hour to go to work. They're going to kill themselves at age 10. I mean, when I went to school here, I graduated in '93. If you were picking on somebody, I got paddled. I got suspended. I know you can't do that anymore, but why is it, I see people talking, and I see stuff on social media, and I talk to people in the hallways, and I still talk. It's like they're coddling the people that are doing the bullying more than the people that are getting hurt by it. Children are being, well, you have to stay here in the morning so you don't get bullied. Why isn't the people that are doing the bullying the one that are being singled out? Let them get a taste of their own medicine and maybe it'll stop. Something drastically has to change. And I need to know what the plans are. I mean, nothing has changed and we're already in October. And I've had 2 problems with my son, both being the victim both times. So obviously it's not working. So what is the board, the superintendent, the principals, the resource officer, what is the plans? What is going on in this school that I have to worry about my 10-year-old child wanting to take his life? Unacceptable.
Agreed.
Absolutely unacceptable. I mean, this is a small city. This isn't even a very big school. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Brian Zarenko. I live at 4577 Bentwood Drive. I'm going to kind of piggyback on what he said about as far as the bullies more or less getting away with it. My daughter was involved in an incident over Labor Day weekend, which started outside of school, but ended up with 4 girls making a online video live saying how they were gonna come to school on Tuesday, beat her up, kill her, jump her. They didn't care if they got suspended or anything. Now, I approached the school board member the very next day and told her that she needed to see this video before I went to anybody. Pretty much, I sent her the video, pretty much got a cold shoulder. That was the end of the story. Came to the school, talked to Ms. Hostetler, and I talked to Mr. Tansky. They kind of gave me the, it'll pass, they're kids, but we'll look into it. I had a meeting with Mr. Tansky, and my daughter had to rearrange her lifestyle, her schedule, while the girls involved got nothing, which I think is completely unacceptable. If somebody, a student at the school went home and made a video and said they were gonna come to school Tuesday with a gun, they wouldn't even wait for them to come to school, they'd be at their house. Now, I might be a little drastic in using a gun reference to this, but my daughter still was threatened, and they said they did not care if they got suspended or not. This bullying is from the preschoolers all the way up, it's crazy. Me and my wife went to school here, I graduated from here. My parents went to school here. I love this school system, it's a good school system, but this is totally unacceptable. My question is, what is the process when this happens and it's brought to everybody's attention? Because I ended up going to the news, and it killed me to go to the news. But everywhere I went, I got a dead end. And I got blown off, and I got mad. I got really upset because I felt nothing. My daughter would come home crying. Why do I have to sit in a principal's office for a half hour before school? I can't sit with my friends. Why do I have to leave class early? While the girls that were doing this, life as usual. So I guess my question to the board is, and to you, is how do we deal with the kids that are the bullies? Because I know, I'll take an instance where if kids get caught drinking or smoking marijuana or whatever, they get suspended, possibly expelled, but they have to go sit in a room with yourself, principal, guidance counselors, and explain themselves with their parents, the story of what happened, and then they make a decision. I want to know if there's some kind of decision process or an investigation process on the kids that are doing the bullying. Talk to their parents, because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Michael Shockey. I live at 7440 Woodhaven. I'm actually a school psychologist in training, and I pulled up a resource before today's meeting from a website available to all school psychologists who should all be members. It outlines 7 steps for building an effective school-wide, district-wide bullying program. And throughout these steps, listening to you guys speak, you've missed key components. You haven't included parents or students in your group. You didn't identify where and how frequently the bullying is occurring by grade level. That's a key component as well. You talked about PBIS. You threw around a nice term, but ultimately your program sounds more responsive and reactive than preventative. So I'm curious as to what the plan is to make this more of a preventative program than a reactive, so that these parents aren't up here complaining and dealing with the headaches that these kids are going through that they shouldn't be going through. So that's my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Pam Burchio, 4734 Elizabeth Lane. I have a daughter in high school. Never, I'm happy to say, had to experience the bullying on either end, as far as I know. I do want to speak to the parents, though. You have to report it. You are the voice behind your kids. Start at the bottom and you work your way up to the top until you get the answer that you and your children deserve. Because if you're not going to stand up every time it happens, absolutely nothing's going to be done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Billie Jean Barker. I live at 8257 Memphis, and my child has been bullied since the first grade by the same kid. He's still being bullied by that kid, but it's so-called not bullying. He comes home crying. He's 8, saying he doesn't want to go to school, saying he hates school. He's thriving in school. But I have to worry about getting a phone call saying, hey, your kid's not coming home today because so-and-so hurt them. And yes, I was told, but in my so many years, I've never sent a kid home in a body bag. That's not okay for this mom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Richard Lewis. My address is 8831 Burwald. My daughter has been bullied for the last 2 years in this school. I've spoke to Mr. Gladkoff and Mr. Yarman. Both of them gave me the cold shoulder. I was told that the other child would receive an oops slip. Oops slips are not effective. When the kids don't bring them home, these parents don't have any idea what their kid is doing. I never received a phone call until I came back up here with my daughter, showed Mr. Gladkoff bruises on her body from being punched by a child. That's the only time I got a phone call. This is not acceptable. Something has to get done, and I'd like to agree with the gentleman that came up here before and said we need to work more preventative, not responsive. It's not acceptable. Something has to be done now. My daughter does not want to come to school. I have to force her every day. I grew up in Cleveland schools. I went through it. They didn't do anything either. I expect that from Cleveland, not from Brooklyn. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Jessica Slanders. I live at 4590 Bentonwood. Last year, my child was picked up by another student and tossed into a door frame. Chipping his tooth is what I was told. I received a call from Carrie Beck saying that your son got into an accident with somebody and chipped his tooth. I have brought pictures for all of you guys to pass down and look at. That's more than a chipped tooth. I had to go to 5 different dentists before I finally got one who could go ahead and do the work. He's now 10, and his adult teeth, it's the one on the left that was broken, and it was sliced across. Now he has to have a fake tooth, and it's uneven. He has kids that pick on him. When the incident had happened, I had contacted the school. I was not happy about it. I spoke with Mr. Glykoff, and I requested that the parents of the other child sit down with me, and they said they don't want to. We can't force them. That's not acceptable. Child, not from the staff, but from an honor student who is in the same grade as the child. Mind you, my child was in 4th grade. This child was a 7th grader. Okay? They went ahead and gave the child a 3-day suspension from what I was told per this honor student. I said, I want to sit down with the parent so we can have an understanding of what is going on and why did this even happen. I don't care if it was an accident, if it was on purpose. You don't accidentally toss a child into a door frame. Now my son has emotional issues and mental issues because of it. He has to walk around at the age of 10 now with a fake tooth and people picking on him because his teeth are not even now. They did the best that they could. I also have a 3rd grader who since last year and this year, has gone out on the playground, has had some issues with some of the other kids, and I understand kids are kids. It's one thing, they pick and say things back and forth, it's fine. But when my daughter says that she doesn't want to come to school because there's an issue, and she goes ahead and goes to the teacher outside, not going to put names, goes to the teacher and says, oh, so-and-so is picking on me. The teacher says, oh, well, you guys are just brats, let it be. Not acceptable. I don't care if they're teachers, aides, whoever. You don't speak to a child that way. Especially as parents, when we have our kids here for their education and their safety. They're supposed to be here and be safe. But when they don't want to come to school, they want to go to a different school because they're tired of being picked on, That's not acceptable by any means. And I think something needs to be done as far as something serious, whether it's, example, my child whose tooth got broke. There should be some requirement of communication between both sets of parents to sit down. I know when I was in middle school, Mr. Glykoff was my principal. I sliced my arm, I had a cast. Kid in my grade punched me in my arm, he suspended him for 10 days. My child has a permanent broke tooth and only got a few days suspension. That's not acceptable. And I know you weren't the principal, you guys have regulations you have to follow, but there has to come a point when enough is enough and it has to stop. There has to be accountability with the children, there has to be accountability with the parents. And I know you guys are limited to what it is that you can do, but we have to do something together, because it's unacceptable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is J.C. Rolone. Address is 4454 Outlook Drive. I just have a question about the discipline. And there's, my son's in the 4th grade. There's the same kids pick on everyone for the past 3 years. They get in trouble, their discipline is 2 days, no recess. They don't care. So they're gonna continue. I mean, there needs to be more discipline, and that's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Megan Barrow, 4638 Southwood Drive. I was luckily fortunate enough that my children really weren't a victim of bullying until recently my son was told by a classmate that he wanted to kill him. Okay, and supposedly Mr. Yarman called my son into his office, talked to him about it, and I didn't find out until 8:30 when I went to parent-teacher conferences and the teacher told me. That's the extent of my notification. I also just want to talk real quick about this PBIS because I don't really understand how 2 years ago my daughter can get an OOP slip for blowing a crayon across the table, and that same week another neighborhood child can get one for telling a girl in his class to me that's two majorly different crimes with the same repercussion. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I will speak again.
Go ahead. We're still within our
Do I need
half.
to identify myself?
No, you're good.
All right. As far as the trusted adults go, my daughter has reported her issues to so-called trusted adults and has been told to stop being a tattletale. She has an OOP slip for being a tattletale when she's trying to inform the adults of what's going on. Like I said before, these OOP slips are a complete joke. Mr. Yarman told me that they are a form of communication. They're not a punishment. Your kid doesn't bring it home, how are you supposed to know? Come to find out, my daughter has an OOP slip in a class for talking when she wasn't supposed to be. The only reason I found that out is because I started digging through her desk during parent-teacher conference and found it in the bottom, dated 2 weeks ago. If you're gonna send an OOP slip home, you should give it a phone call. Any instance of bullying, it should be a phone call. Not an OOP slip, not an email. It needs to be a phone call or a face-to-face. All of us, as has been said before, this is a small city. Most of us are within walking distance of the school. I'm sure any parent in this room would not have a problem with coming up to the school to sit down and talk to the principal about what their child is going through. I'm not sure how many people you guys usually have for these meetings, but I see you had to add chairs. Show of hands, who's here because of bullying? Think we have an issue? I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We're gonna go on to the. Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Heidi Knapp. I'm at 6505 Dotting Drive. My son is a student of Brooklyn City School District. However, he is out of district at Brooklyn placed him. He has autism. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but after hearing everything, I feel like I need to because my son was bullied before he was placed. He's been called names on the playground. I emailed Tansky, and he never responded to my email. So I did go to an adult about it. My son obviously couldn't because he doesn't have the coping tools that he needs to do that. My other concerns are the policies for this bullying that's occurring. What actions are you taking? I hear parents talking about going to the principal and going to Dr. Glykoff and what's happening. Why aren't, these steps, there's a process of policy. So what's being done with this policy that is in place on the bylaws and policies on the website, which I looked at, and it doesn't look like it's been revised since 2012. I know students in the school. They have told me that it's out of control. Children are so disrespectful to the teachers, to other staff, support staff. I know people who pulled their kids out of this district because they can't get help for their children, and that was like their option, was to leave. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn, pretty much born and raised here. I love this city. My other concern is about the safety. And when my son will transition back into this school, I'm concerned about his safety. And if I continue to hear and see that these problems are not being resolved, I'll homeschool him if I have to before I let him come back in here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Angela Mitchell, 7325 Traymore. I have two kids here, one who was a 9th grader here and one who is a 5th grader. One of my girls who doesn't do so great in this school, her grades are severely affected, who was just recently diagnosed with severe depression, who has suicidal thoughts all the time. Yesterday was her last day at the school because I can no longer take the way that she is treated. I have another child who is in 5th grade, who is an honor roll student, who is constantly picked on by the same little girl, and every time she reports it, the lunch monitors tell her, sorry, I'm shaking. The lunch monitors tell her to be quiet and go play and stop being a tattletale. The lunch monitors need to be trained on how to handle kids who come to them with problems, because I am ready to come up here and train them myself because it's ridiculous. She went to Mr. Tansky because at parent-teacher conference, I met a mom who came up to me and thanked me because my child picked her daughter up off the ground and took her to the principal's office because a boy kicked her in her leg so hard that the skin broke and she was bleeding. Mr. Tansky got both of the girls in his office, at which he told them he doesn't believe them. Right, hard to believe, because why would a principal say that? My daughter told me that, and the young girl's mother told me her daughter told her the same thing. So how can two kids be lying? Like, something needs to be done because I'm getting ready to take my 5th grader out of this school also. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, hold on. I want to say one more thing. I'm sorry. You said the part on a boy came up to my 9th grader and asked her to, and nothing was done. This is when she was in 7th grade. I went up to the counselor, Mrs. Burr or Miss Burr, and I asked her what was done. She told me that they said something to him. I said, what would the discipline be if a child came up to you and said, well, you guys, like, what would you guys do to him? Like, how is it okay that they can't say it to a teacher, but they can come and say it to a young girl? I mean, it makes no sense.
Kent Seserchi, 4720 Autumn Lane. I'm not a parent. I do support the parents. I feel strongly about the safety of our kids. I've been following on social media another safety issue having to do with the intersection of Ridge Road and West 66th Street and Hurricane Alley. There was a crossing guard there when Brookridge School existed, and when the school was demolished and all the school activities were moved here, that school guard disappeared. I don't understand how anyone can look at that intersection and not think that a crossing guard is necessary for the kids that live in Brooklyn Acres or even in the area around Hammond and Newberry and those streets. And are they second-class students that they're not being looked after? It's another safety issue in addition to the bullying. I don't understand why any intersection down Williamston needs 2 crossing guards, yet one of them cannot be placed over at Ridge Road. It's a wide intersection. Hurricane Alley and West 66th Street don't align, and so and it's a three-part type cycle. Any person that's crossing there is subject to being hit by somebody trying to make a left-hand turn who doesn't see. And if it's a little person going home from school or on his way to school, it's even more dangerous. I've been in that intersection and had to watch and stop because a driver almost hit me. Whoever made the decision not to place a crossing guard there needs to rethink the issue again, because the parents of the students that live on the other side of Ridge Road deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will answer that. We usually don't answer questions, but I'll get you that answer. That's a city issue. The city takes care of those. You'd have to talk to the city. Anyone else?
My name is Lane Brown. I live at 7624 Ira Avenue. I just want to make a comment and let the staff and everybody else know. I've worked in a school district for 30 years. I've worked as a secretary, so I have seen a lot that has gone on in buildings. My concern is several times when I've been up here through the years, because I've had 3 grandchildren up here. The Brooklyn City School is a terrific city school, but they think that this stuff does not happen in this school district. It does happen in this school district, whether you want to say it does or it doesn't. I've seen many things, and when it starts, it's going to continue. So I think you as a board, people, need to realize what's going on and stop thinking it doesn't happen in Brooklyn, because it does happen in Brooklyn. And this is a small community. A lot of parents are more involved than suburb schools, but don't keep closing your eyes, because it does happen in this school district. It really does. And eyes need to be opened, and people need to react and do something about what's going on, not say that they're going to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Mr. Neil, can I just make a comment real
Absolutely.
quick? Certainly, I want to just reiterate, certainly we've made some efforts, but we need to make more.
Correct.
We said that at the outset. I think some of the things we heard certainly resonate with me, because some of the things that we've talked about as a board is we know we're in a competitive educational society now, and we want people to choose Brooklyn. So we certainly have some work to do so folks feel more confident and trusted in our work. So I just want to say that.
Correct. Just want everybody to know that the board has spoke about this, all right? We follow up with Dr. Glykoff. They put a presentation in front of us. We will stay on top of this. We always have, we always will. I meet with them every 1 or 2 weeks. We have a conversation about these things as well, too. We can't stop every incident, but I hear what you're saying, all right? I wanted to discontinue as well, too. This board will have a meeting on this, and we will get to the bottom of it. A few years ago, before Dr. Glykoff was hired, I wanted to have a dean of discipline here. I got a thumbs down from a lot of people in there. I still believe that's where we gotta go. That's my opinion. And that's just, we'll leave it at that. I'm only one board member. So, anything else?
That's it.
All right, anybody else want to join in? I don't have no problem with that. We're gonna go on to the next item. The next item is gonna be the treasurer's report. Mr. Street?
Mr. Neal, my report, a 5-year forecast, is later on in the agenda,
Okay,
so we will leave it for that time.
all right, appreciate it. We're gonna go from comments from board members and board committee reports. We're gonna start off with Mr. Singer today.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we have some of our parents who were concerned about bullying leaving the room. You know, as a board member and also as a parent with 2 girls in the school system, I hear the bullying stories and have heard the bullying stories over the years. And it's kind of frustrating when you're a parent and also a school board member. And I'm all about accountability. And the one thing I learned over the years is that sometimes politics rules in a school system or any governmental institution. And I see sometimes that whether it's intentional or unintentional, we have administrators and teachers that kind of look the other way because, quite frankly, to get involved might compromise their status in the system. And sometimes identifying what bullying is difficult at best. You know, if you asked me what bullying was when I went to school, it probably didn't resemble what our kids are going through today. We had no cyberbullying when I went to school. I'm very concerned about the lack of response of our principals and our teachers and other administrative staff. I'm telling you this as a board member. It's very frustrating. Last year, we took action. Dr. Glykoff decided to be more proactive rather than reactive about addressing the bullying. I got to tell you, though, as a parent, first responsibility for all of us as parents starts at home. I knew one of my daughters was being bullied just because of the way she came home and reacted. You know, when they don't run to school and run away from school, you know there's a problem. And I saw that and I asked what's wrong. And when I asked what's wrong, I found out that my daughter was picked on, as some other board members' children were too. And again, maybe part of the problem is, and I think it might be identified here, is education. I mean, we have lunch monitors who are parents. They might be grandparents. How we identify what bullying is or how they identify bullying, we have to kind of put the framework around that and frame it and say, if a child comes to you and says she's being bullied or he's being bullied, we need to take it seriously. Because in these days and ages, we just don't know what the next step of that bully will be. You know, we've seen school shootings, seen kids bringing guns to school, seen bringing other weapons to school. It's very disconcerting as a parent. And it's just not Brooklyn schools, it's all the schools. You go to Cleveland schools and you have armed guards guarding the entrances of the schools. So, you know, do we have a problem? Yes, we have a problem with bullying. I think the bigger problem we have is we have to penetrate that political system, that system of where the teachers or administrators don't want to report. As a board member, I've asked for an incident report. And that means the parent gets a report number. The administrator gives that report number. The principals, the administrators, Dr. Glykoff, and the board, we want to see not only incident reports, we want to see the incident that something has been taken, accountability, action's been taken. As far as, you know, we address the victims, we're not addressing the bullies. Folks, we might have parents in this room whose children are the bullies, and we need to identify them as well. You know, we have children who are, my daughters are great con artists sometimes. When they want their way, they know somehow to get around mom and daddy. And we have to penetrate that as well. We need to find out if our children are the ones that are bullying. And I got to tell you, the parent of the bullying person, I'm guessing there's a problem at home that has to be addressed. And if the parent won't address it, I really think, and we're kind of limited to what we can do on a school board by law, as Dr. Glykoff said. But I got to tell you, I've heard of already legislation and ordinance that will arrest the parent of a bully if the action isn't taken against that bully. And, you know, it's sad to think that we have to go that route, that we have to bring the parents to justice, okay, for the actions of their children. But that's what it seems like it's getting to, where we have to hold the parents accountable for what their kids are doing in the schools, even outside of the classroom. But I got to tell you, what's really disconcerting, I've been on a board now for almost 10 years, and I think my fellow board members may concur with this, is that sometimes these reports are glossed over. And that's why the accountability is so important. And if we're going to set up any kind of a system of monitoring reporting, it's got to be accountable to everybody, including the parent. The one resounding pattern I saw tonight was you talked to someone and it fell on deaf ears or went nowhere. That's the old government shuffle. You know, keep shuffling and moving around until the people go away. So the complainants, they'll complain, they might get some notice, and then over time it goes away. But the problem doesn't go away. So we really need to have an incident report that we can see as board members, something we've asked for now for a year. We want to know, as Mrs. Barczyk mentioned, you know, we want to know, is there a reoccurring problem with particular children in a particular classroom? Is a teacher in one of our classrooms not responding to the requests? Is it one of our principals that is not following through with the incident reports? The only way you're going to find out is to follow through the system and the pattern of incident reports. And then a parent can call Dr. Glykoff or call Mrs. Jones and say, here's my incident report, where are we at with this? Where are we at with my child being thrown up against a door frame? Okay, what action has been taken? And, you know, Mr. Ober mentioned about the accountability and the loop, closing the loop. We have to find a way to close that loop, and then after we close that loop, we have to find out, is there a pattern with the same child being a bully? And again, we're talking about our children here. We need to sit down with them, educate them, but the issues of bullying, if they know they can get away with that, or if they know the penalty is so less severe that they'll repeat it over and over again. It's like getting a parking ticket. You know, how many of us have gotten parking tickets and threw it in the glove box? Okay, what we have to do is match the incident with the disciplinary action. And that's what I'd like to see as a board. And I'm not a professional educator or administrator. I'm just a parent who is concerned. I was concerned about my daughter. I went to the root problem, found out what the root problem was, who the perpetrators was, made sure it was addressed, and made sure it was followed through. Not every parent may know that or want to have the time to do that, but folks, the responsibility for bullying does start with us as parents. And, you know, to talk about it on social media is a waste of time. Those of you who get on social media and complain about the school board, the administrators, and everything, that's all fine and dandy, but the first question I would ask, have you filed a report? Have you gone to the principals? Have you gone up the ladder? You know, we're the board. We don't need to see it firsthand. We'll know if there's an incident report, if it's been addressed. If it has been addressed, any one of us board members would be willing to address it with the appropriate administrators. So that's my take on the bullying. I want to turn it to a positive note on my report. Sorry for taking so long.
Fine.
I do want to say that we have a levy coming up in November. You know, this is a tough subject. You know, when you're not happy with the schools or school system. But folks, we have an issue with Brooklyn School with our buildings where we have to replace the roof in the high school. It's not critical yet, but it will be, and we need to pass a permanent improvement levy in order to fix the roof so we have a school. if we want an environment for our kids that is safe from bullying, but also safe from physical harm. We don't need kids to be sitting in classrooms where the roof's leaking. So we need your support on that levy November 2nd and for you to vote. Voting is important. It's important not only for doing the kind of things that the board wants to see as far as capital improvement projects, but folks, like your homes, the roof doesn't last forever, the furnace doesn't last forever, the hot water tank doesn't last forever. You know, for the first time, I gotta say, this board has put together a 5-year plan on making sure that we're managing the capital projects, managing our buildings the way they should be, just like you do at home. If your furnace is on the fritz, we bring in a serviceman to fix it and fix it right, and that's what we want to do with our schools. So we do need your support for the levy. I do want to thank all of our parents that came tonight, but I also want to thank all of you because I see some familiar faces. I want to see our parent volunteers be recognized for all the work that you do. I can't thank you enough for the work that you do, working with the marching band, all of our athletic teams, and our academic activities. You are truly our unsung heroes. And I want to applaud you for that. I do want to applaud Dr. Glykoff and all the staff members for putting together the District Climate Task Force. I got to say, it's long overdue. It really is. And the evidence of tonight's meeting will attest to that. I do also want to tell you that I sent the information to Dr. Glykoff about a scholarship fund that any Brooklyn senior can apply to for $1,000 for any senior who contributes to the community, does community outreach. The USGACI Foundation gives out 10 scholarships for $1,000, but the students have to apply. If they go to their counselors, they can see the application form and apply for the $1,000 scholarship. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. On to Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Thank you, President. I would like to address very briefly the bullying situation. I can understand and sympathize with you parents. My oldest daughter was bullied when she was in the elementary school. It was, as a parent, I was on the board at the time. It was the longest school year of our lives. It was very challenging and it was very hard to deal with. I understand where your parents, how you feel, your frustration. My daughter was grabbed by the back of her hair, yanked backwards. She was thrown down. She was pushed. She was hit repeatedly by the same person. So I understand how that is. I also, my younger daughter last year was bullied and told that a girl said she was going to beat her up. So every day my daughter had to stay in a classroom. She wasn't able to go out when the class was dismissed because the girl said it, in front of the teachers that, she was going to beat up my daughter, and my daughter responded back to her, "I'm not going to hit you, I'm not going to fight you," and she would, so that lasted all spring. I know I, as a parent, sometimes have a conflicting, within myself because I never want anyone to say, well, she got special treatment because she's Bonnie and she's on the board. So I sometimes tend to let I don't take the steps that I'm telling you parents that you should take. You need to contact the teachers. Then you need to contact the principals. Then if you're still not getting the results, you need to contact Dr. Glykoff. And if you are not getting results that you need to call the board. I will speak to any of you at any time about anything that has to do with the school district. My number, and I'll give it again at the end, is 216-406-4304. You can call me, text me any time of the day, please. I'm always willing to listen. And they always tell us when people call us, have them go through the proper channel. And if you've gone through the proper channel and you've spoken to the teacher and you've spoken to the principal and you've spoken to Dr. Glykoff and you still need to speak to somebody, that is why we are elected to represent you. Please call us. Please. So, I would just like to let everybody know that if you would like to speak to me about it, I am available. Please call me. please. Rest of my report, I would like to say thank you to Mrs. Hostetler and the student athletes. Thank you to Seth and Hunter, Alyssa and Kelsey. They truly are leaders in our school. Thank you so much. I can tell they learned a lot. I liked a lot of the positive affirmations and things that they learned, and they are 4 examples of excellent students in the Brooklyn school districts. Mr. Majeski, you have 2 boys that you should be very proud of, very, very proud of. And Mrs. Helmick, you have a daughter that is amazing. And the Brusiaks have already left, but I would tell them the same thing. You have a lot to be very proud of. My daughter has been on the same soccer team with Mrs. Helmick's daughter. Sorry to say which sport she played, but Alyssa's been a leader and a mentor to my daughter. So thank you so much. She was such a positive influence on my daughter. I really appreciate it, and she's a great kid. I would like to thank the committee and the community for the Fall Fest. I know our students got involved in that, and they hid rocks, Brooklyn Rocks, hashtag Brooklyn Rocks 44144. Positive things the students were trying to do to spread happiness, spread messages of positivity, things that the kids are trying to do in the community, because I understand and I recognize that we have things going on in this community and in this school system that isn't right, but we also have things that are positive and things that are going, the kids that are doing good things, that we are accomplishing a lot of great stuff. But I would like to thank the mayor and the city for the Fall Fest, because I know a lot of our students had a great time painting pumpkins and the hay rides, and it was a great event for the community. I would like to thank the Mike and Dee Dee Bernaski for the Christ Cupboards event that they had last weekend, or I'm sorry, 2 weekends back. They volunteer all their time, and they collect all the food, and they collect all these coats for kids, and some of our kids in our district receive the benefits from those coats for kids. That everybody in our district can't afford to buy their child a new coat, or they need some help from the food bank, and the Bernaskis do that. And they offered such a great service. Everything was given away for free. So I'd like to thank them. And also, I would also like to commend, we had students that were working there, helping out, anyone who came in who needed a coat or anything. We had some of our students, once again, doing great things in this community to be a positive impact. So I want to recognize them as well and tell them a job well done. We had Walk to School Week. I would like to thank everyone who participated, all those who made that event such a success. All of our principals, all of our buildings, the police and the fire department for Walk with a Hero Day. Thank you so much. Thank you. And they had their little stations and they walked. I know the kids were so excited about that. I would also like to say thankful to everyone who planned that, because I know Father's Walk or significant male figure in your life, that was a very positive day, and I know a lot of kids really look forward to it. Thank you so much for that. Another amazing things that our students are doing in our high school girls, Volley for a Cure. They had a fundraiser that our high school volleyball team put on, and something that we all should be really proud of, Volley for a Cure for breast cancer awareness and research. Those girls did a phenomenal job. Not only are they phenomenal on the volleyball court, but they're doing great things for the community, and I think they should be commended. So thank you to everybody who helped organize that. This Friday is the last home football game. So I would hope that everyone comes out. There will be fireworks set off by our very own Bob after the game. But come out for senior night to see our kids at their last home game. It's supposed to be a beautiful night. And those are some of the events that make living in this small town such a great thing, and is one of the positives. And see our talented student athletes on their last home game. I want to congratulate everyone with the fall sports. Everybody fought hard. They represented Brooklyn well and made every one of us proud. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, the Friends of the Big Creek, General Motors, and the mayor for the 7th graders had a little field trip to the creek where they tested for chemicals and for their science class, and they just had a ball. And that was a great collaboration between those, and they helped make it possible. They helped them test the water, go in there and take samples, and it was really a good event and something that the kids will definitely remember. So I want to thank them for that. One of my committees is the Domestic Violence Committee, and there is an issue on the ballot. I would suggest that everyone go to, if you have Google, or if you could put into Google, 2017 State Issues Report for Ohio. And we have 2, Issue 1 and Issue 2. Issue 1 is for Marsy's Law. It was originated in California. Gentleman's sister was murdered and stalked and murdered by her boyfriend in 1983. And her mother was in the grocery store 1 week after her murder, and her mom walked into the man who murdered her daughter because no one had notified them that he had been released on bail. So that was where that whole ball got rolling, and how Marcy's Law. Some of the points of Marcy's Law are the right for the victims to receive the right to privacy and to be treated with respect, fairness, and dignity, the right to information about the rights and services available to crime victims, the right to notification in a timely manner of all proceedings in the case, the right to be present and heard at all court proceedings, including the right to petition the court to protect the victim's rights, the right to prompt a conclusion of the case, to refuse discovery requests made by the accused, except as authorized by Article 1, Section 10 of the Ohio Constitution, the right to reasonable protection from the accused, the right to notice of the release or escape of the accused, and the right to restitution. You can go on there, and they do have some, the points against it are some people, it is that they feel that Ohio does have laws already in place. But my personal opinion, and this is just my opinion, being on the Domestic Violence Committee, anything that helps the victims and gives them more rights and more of a voice, especially after you've been victimized, is a positive. So I feel that anything like that is good. So if you want more information on that, that's 2017 State Issue Reports, Ohio. As for our issue 58, I would like to thank, first off, I would like to thank our Support the Schools Committee and all those who have done that. And those really, truly are, as Mr. Singer said, the unsung heroes who really take the lead and really spearhead this whole, campaign for us. And we truly appreciate it. Issue 58 is it's needed. If you've been into the high school or you've seen pictures of the high school roof was not replaced when the new building was put on. And if you have a student in the high school, you know that there's water leaking. And we need to do something to help those students in the high school also, because set a positive environment, because it can lead to things like mildew and things that we don't want our children to have to experience. So issue 58 is crucial for that also, and it also can be used for technology and moving forward. I know everybody is worried about technology and where, how it's used in schools. Issue 58 could also be used for that. Our main priority right now is the roof. We do have to, take care of the roof, but that is something that it could be generated down the line. Like I said, I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. You can call or text me at any time. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry it was so long today.
On to Mr. Oper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everybody that spoke tonight. You were heard. I'll grant you that. You were heard. As far as bullying goes, bullying sucks. As Mrs. Virtue said, trust the process. And I think I have to take issue with the one comment that was made as far as prevention goes. I think with the District Climate Task Force, if you're educated about the subject, that's the best way you can learn how to prevent something. So I think the prevention piece of it is starting to take place. And as it was mentioned also, that if there's nothing on using this program, if there's no incidents to report, it's, social media is good for some things, it's not so good for other things, and it just escalates into hearsay, and you don't get all the facts presented. So if everything is reported, if these incidents are reported and goes to the proper channels and closes the loop, this puts the onus back on the administrators and the teachers that, okay, what happened with this? So it's putting their feet to the fire as well. So all the comments I heard tonight as far as lack of reaction or indifference or whatever you want to call it, this puts more of a burden on the fact that, what happened? How did this, what happened and what do we do about it? So it has to start somewhere, and I'm definitely not downgrading anybody that anything is said tonight, because I feel it, I understand it. And, as parents, it's something you have to live with on a daily basis. So I probably can't say it any better than Mr. Singer or Mrs. Barczyk said, but that's my feeling on bullying, that, use the system. We've set up a system, we're starting this, we've started this, please use the system, and if there's no reaction, then, run it up the flagpole, run it up the channels and see what happens, because if we don't know about it, and, and Mr. Singer mentioned as far as an incident report, we want these incident reports. We've asked for these incident reports. This will give us the tools that we can use to say, okay, what happened in this particular instance? What happened to the bullier, and the bully, and we'll go from there. But that's, we have to start somewhere. But we do hear, we do listen, and we will take action. It's probably as simple as I could say it. I had a bunch of other stuff, but since there's a lot of stuff going on, so the only thing I'm going to say tonight as far as Polaris is concerned, there's a lot of things happening at Polaris, but we did get our Career Tech report card, which is a lot different from the state report card. There's only five categories. There's not a whole lot of subgroups like there's at the public school report card. There's 91 career centers in the state. One of them had an A in technical skill achievement and C in prepared success, and A's in the rest of the categories. 2 of them were in second place, and Polaris was tied for third with 2 other schools. So I think that's kudos to the kind of programs that Polaris has, and why I think Career Tech is such an important thing in today's economy. I had a bunch of other stuff, but just in the interest of time, I will save that for another day. As always, I can be reached at james.oper@brooklyn.k12.oh.us or 216-485-8195. That's my report.
Thank you. On to Mr. Hennings.
Yeah, okay. There isn't a whole lot left I can talk about, so thank you all for coming out. You've been candid, so I'll be very candid with you guys. Bullying does suck. It's the pits. I hated it when I went to school here. I went to school here in 76 to 82. And I'm going to agree with Rocky. I think we need to have a disciplinary principal here who strictly deals with the bullying and the disciplinary issues. When I walked through the halls, and I don't know who's here that might remember Lou Cerrone. Anybody here? Huh. I walked the other way. I was scared. I'll tell you right now. I wanted nothing to do with him. I turned around and walked the other way. When I ended up in his office, I guarantee you, I walked out and I couldn't sit for the rest of the day.
What should you be in his office for?
Well, I didn't bully anybody, that's for sure, but...
Because he was Bob.
Because I was me.
Right.
I can tell you some reasons, after when we're not on tape, so...
Yeah, right.
I think we really... We should have somebody like that, so these kids, I don't know, I'm going to tell you, I think it starts at home with respect. They come to this school and they don't respect the teachers, they don't respect the principals, and that's our job as parents. You got to teach your kids to respect and fear. There's got to be some fear when they walk into school to know that they're going to end up in somebody's office and, well, we may not be able to paddle a kid anymore, but I'll tell you right now, we're going to be on the phone, and when their parents come up, the ball's in their court. Because if whatever we do now in school, if they don't build on what we do, then it's the same day, the next day. It all goes back to the parents. No matter what we do, if the parents don't reinforce it, it's in one ear and out the other. 2 things these kids need to know is respect and fear. The fear is that at one point, they're going to deal with the principal who's going to be on the phone with their parents. And you know what, that's all I'm going to say on that. We've beat it 3 ways to death, so, on a lighter note, the fall sports are coming to an end, and thanks to all the parents and the students who were part of the fall sports. God bless all of them. Some gave more than they should have and are walking around with broken arms and broken legs, and, God bless them all. You play with your heart, and that's what we need here. We need kids that, want to get involved and want to be a part of things, and they want to give everything. When I was here, I played 3 sports, and I wasn't very good at all of them, but I was still there as part of the team, and that's all that matters. We want the kids to come out and be a part of something. There's a lot of things coming up for the rest of the year. Just because fall sports are ending doesn't mean, the best part of the school year is over. We got the school musical coming up, and that is, by far part of the best time in the school. I love the musicals. I love being a part of them when I went here. They're great. So I challenge all the kids, be a part of something. I've heard Miss Hostler say it time and time again in her opening speech at the school year. Be a part of something. Get involved. Do something. Don't just come to school and go home and sit on PlayStation. This is the best time of your life. Quit wasting it sitting in a bedroom on PlayStation. It's worthless. It'll rot your brain. There's stage crew. Stage crew is one of the better. You're gonna learn how to hammer, nail, saws, everything. You know, pit band. For those of you guys that are a marching band, you know, they're be part of the pit band. We got basketball and wrestling, 2 great sports. You know, we had three state qualifiers. 2 state. Okay, thanks. 2. You know, we always need help with the basketball team, but wrestling team, Taylor's there, and he's all about it. As far as the city goes, the Brooklyn Recreation Department, in cooperation with the Police Department and Fire Department, will have Frightening Friday Night Halloween Scream and Skate. It's Friday, October 27th, during open skate from 8 to 9:15. It's a free admission to current Brooklyn resident ID holders wearing a costume and donating a Thanksgiving-related canned good for the city of Brooklyn Thanksgiving basket. Non-residents will be admitted for resident rates of $3 admission if wearing a costume and donating a Thanksgiving-related canned good for the holiday times. All other skaters not wearing a costume will be admitted for regular prices. They're also going to have, for $2, hot dog and pretzels. So it's going to be a great night. That's the last night for football. It's an away game, so if you can't make it to the football game, there you go. There's something to do. October 27th and 28th will be registration for the Brooklyn Blades on Ice Skating Learn to Skate class schedule. Any questions? It's up here. Okay, for anyone else who has a thought of wants to try to know what hockey is, try Hockey for Free Day. Come join us and try the fastest game on ice. Interested players ages 3 to 10 years old, Sunday, October 29th, 12 to 1. Those of you who are interested, please contact Mike Crossman. I'm sure it's Matt Crossman's father, who's one of the better hockey players here. And it's mvc1069@outlook.com. Skates will be provided free of charge. Hockey equipment not required, but if you choose to wear head protection, so be it. It says it's recommended. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hennings. It was enlightening.
It usually is.
Thank everybody for showing up. I don't want to thank you for being here, but thank you for coming and expressing your thoughts, your stories. It's not going to go on deaf ears. Really hasn't. It never has. It's getting through the process. Some of the cases you may be right, but as far as the board goes, all right? My suggestion to you, and I'm going to throw this at Mr. Glykoff, send Dr. Glykoff an email so you can get on his email list, so you can stay in contact with, he sends out a letter. You know, you may need some information. Please send him an email. Let him know who you are. Sitting here, it was very frustrating today as a board member, but I'm not, you know, there's some things we got to get done. There's absolutely some things we got to get done. So, very frustrating, but we'll dig through them, and I appreciate everybody's insight. Again, November 7th, we have an issue 58. It's for technology, one of the committees that I am on. I was very fortunate to go through the school about 3 weeks ago and saw a cart of laptops, Google Chrome laptops from what we purchased recently. The goal for me as a board member, technology, I've seen the kids light up, their eyes light up when they're in the Google Chrome. What we're trying to do is get it 1 for 1. Right now, I think our ratio is 3 to 1, 4 to 1 for each student. I would like to see 1 to 1. And I was in a couple rooms and went several different rooms, and they were pulling those carts out, and they were like, this is great, this is great. It said paper and pencil and a chalk, well, there's no more chalkboards, but the other, what do you call that? Whiteboard, there you go. So it was very enlightening, quicker, faster, and getting things done, so. Please vote in a positive way. We will deal with the issues that you brought upon us. That's all I can tell you. as the board president and as the rest of the board members, I guarantee that we will have a meeting on this, and it may be at length as well, too. So with that said, we are going to move on to approval of minutes and financial statements, and our reader today is Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be resolved, the minutes of the following Board of Education meeting be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved. The regular meeting of September 19, 2017, special meeting September 26, 2017, and the special meeting held October 2nd, 2017.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School Board, Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of September 2017, including all purchase orders paid and all then and now statements for the month of September as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the applications for the following fundraising activities, which are also on file in our treasurer's office. The organization is AVID. The event is collection of school supplies and monetary donations to give AVID schools in Texas, which were impacted by the recent hurricane. The date, September through October. National Art Honor Society, Texas Roadhouse gift card sales, which will be held through November and December. The Student Council, Krispy Kreme donut sales to provide funding for PBIS programs and fund leadership training programs to be held starting October 12th, 2017. BCSD Special Ed Special Olympics participation. A Chipotle earned 50% of net sales to raise money for the transportation to and from Special Olympics bowling practices to be held on November 21st, 2017.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
These are pretty standard, Mr. President. Some of them you'll see the timing of have already really occurred, and that's just because of the timing of our board meeting.
Correct. Anybody else?
I just want to reach out and thank the AVID students for their thoughtful prayers and
Absolutely.
actions for the school supplies for the
Yeah.
hurricane victims in Texas.
Absolutely.
Nice gesture. Shows a lot of class.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education, in accordance with Revised Code Chapter 3327 and a procedure set forth by the Ohio Department of Education, declare transportation impractical for certain identified students. The resolution follows careful evaluation of all other available options prior to consideration of impracticality. Whereas the students identified on the list in a central office have been determined to be residents of this school district and eligible for transportation services, and whereas, after careful evaluation of all available options, it has been determined that it's impractical to provide transportation for these students to their selected schools. And whereas, after careful evaluation of all available options, it has been determined that it's impractical to provide transportation for these students to their schools, and whereas following the factors as identified in Revised Code 3327.02 have been considered, the time and distance required to provide transportation, the number of pupils to be transported, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, administration, whether similar or equivalent services provided to other pupils eligible for transportation, and whether and to what extent the additional service unavoidably disrupts current transportation schedules, and whether other reimbursable types of transportation are available and whereas the option of offering payment in lieu of transportation is provided in the revised code. Therefore, it be resolved that the Brooklyn Center of Education approves the declaration of impractical to transport the identified students and offering them payment in lieu of transportation.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second. Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff?
Yeah, this is always a confusing one too, but essentially, Mr. Singer hit it right on the head with that last line. It's basically what you're saying as a Board of Education, hey, it's really impractical for us to transport these students. What is that? So the state of Ohio has come up with a stipend amount, which is $250 per student. So transportation stipend of $250 per student is offered to families who live beyond the 2 miles from the school their children attend. To give you an instance, last year in 16-17, there were 47 students. That stipend, so this cost the district probably about $11,750. So that's what this resolution here today is doing.
Anyone else?
We're actually that far away. We got people that far. The city's that wide.
Well, but remember what I said. To families that live beyond 2 miles from the school their child attends. So it may be a school that is outside of Brooklyn. So.
Anyone else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the second reading and adoption of the following board bylaws and policies as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, this is the second reading. I think I took a lot of time at the last meeting, but,
Yep, we broke it down.
yeah, so.
Anyone else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an inter-district service area agreement with the Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County per the provisions of sections 3313.17, 3313.841, 3313.842, 3313.91, and 3323.08 of the Ohio Revised Code for the 2017-2018 school year, and this agreement is available in the central office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff?
Yeah, it allows us as a school district to hire personnel through the ESC that we don't hire ourselves through the district. Gives us a little more flexibility, especially when you're talking about people like a transition coordinator or a speech and language pathologist, so.
Our psychologist is through there, correct?
We had
Or
hired
we had-
one last year through there.
That's right. Okay. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2017-2018 supplemental coaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and a State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and or first aid training and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. We have Jim Verba, girls varsity basketball head coach, Bob Kelber, girls JV basketball coach, Kyle Atkins, boys intermediate 7th grade basketball coach, Matt Musaga, boys intermediate 8th grade basketball coach, Ryan Kelber, varsity hockey head coach, Matt Field, varsity hockey assistant coach, Jason Supik, varsity hockey assistant coach, Greg Field, varsity hockey volunteer coach, Taylor Smith, varsity wrestling head coach, Ray Mass, varsity wrestling assistant coach, Chad Porter, varsity wrestling volunteer coach, and Jessica Schneer, varsity JV winter cheer coach.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Winter sports are upon us.
Anyone else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves changes in the scheduled hours for the 2017-18 school year, and that's for Deborah Baylog, she's a bus driver, from 4 hours, 10 minutes per day to 4 hours, 20 minutes per day, effective September 18th, 2018.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
How many bus drivers do we have right now?
Well, when we get through 5.3,
He'll tell you.
we'll be
Oh,
adding
okay.
another, so, yeah, we'll be up to 5.
You know, your next job's gonna be right, Bob?
I gotta drive the bus now?
Yeah.
I got my CDL.
Yeah,
Oh, my, I just heard that.
Jesus, take the
we
wheel.
have to kick you off.
Jesus, take the wheel.
We have to kick you off the board, just so you know. Well, I'm just kidding. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following classified personnel for the 2017-18 school year. Darren Torrey, excuse me, classroom assistant, 6.5 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 3, effective September 25th, 2017. And Melody Kilk.
Click.
Is that Click? I'm sorry, Click. A bus driver, 3 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 2, effective October 18th, 2017.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Hold on one second.
Nope.
Did we miss something at the bottom there? Did I have that?
Executive content?
No, that's ours.
No, that's,
Oh,
that's
okay.
for our
All right,
edification.
my bad.
Mr. Neal, who motioned?
I did.
Rick?
Mr. Singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second? Who gave second?
Mr. Hennings?
All right, I'm sorry. Questions, comments? There's your bus driver, Bob.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There you go.
We got a vote on it yet. Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. There
So
you
now
go.
we have 5.
That's correct.
Depends.
Good. How many more years? It'd be 6? Standby?
There you go.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn
Figure
City
that.
School District Board of Education approves the 5-year forecast and the notes as submitted.
You're doing,
As noted, or?
is that an as noted you're doing?
Oh,
There's a-
I just put some description in there.
There's some edification there for
Okay.
our purposes.
Yes.
You know,
We would not
File
need to do
attachments.
that.
I'll move
it's
that.
the same, it's the same 5-year forecast as was presented to the board previously at our finance committee meeting.
Correct. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Well, hold on, we're gonna as note that.
Okay.
Don't go, Dan. It's almost
As
over.
noted. Can I have a motion now?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street?
Would you like me to review a little bit of it? I know we're getting late. and I
Yeah,
can-
go ahead.
Okay.
This is the exciting part.
Okay, so, Taylor went right to the, he
Are we in a hurry?
Taylor didn't want to see any red, and so I made it black for him. No. This is fiscal year 18, ending, anticipated balance, $28,729. So we have basically broke even for this fiscal year.
That's good.
Yes. Last year, that $1,275,000 includes transfers and advances coming in from the previous year. So really, last year, we broke even, or I shouldn't say we broke even, but we made about $300,000 more in revenue than we had in expenses last year if you take out transfers and advances. This year, we'll just about break even. And then you can see in the next year that we have a deficit there. But Taylor, if you scroll down a little bit, yes, so right there where Taylor's, one below there, please. Down the arrow, that $1,127,000. The state requires that because that is our renewal levy that will have to be on the ballot in 2018, the state requires that for this 5-year forecast purpose, I cannot include it in the revenue up top. So it somewhat exaggerates the deficit that we have at the end of next year. But if we didn't pass the levy, the renewal levy that we'll have to put on in 2018, that would be our negative cash balance. I should say expenses over revenue. That was the red number up there. We still have cash, but we'd be living off of our cash balance. Taylor, if you want to scroll up at the top. So up at the top there in the general property taxes, you can see where $12,400,000 in fiscal year 2017 that we received in property taxes. That number has been set by the county for this year. They've certified $12,281,000. Last year we received about $200,000 in delinquent property taxes. I hope that we will receive additional collections, and I hope that that $12,281,000 will be greater than what it is, because collections have been better since the recession. But I can't certify that because the county is conservative, and so am I. But let's hope that that gets better, and that 28,000 I said we'd have at the end of the year becomes a bigger number.
Mm-hmm.
The thing of note, if you look at unrestricted grants there, the next number down, which is $1,302,000, if I can see that far, that is the money that the state pays us on the foundation. So every school district in the state, based on a formula, gets money for the school. This is what we have a big complaint about with the state, is they pay us less than the parochial schools or the charter schools. And then also the number has been taken out. There's $322,000 that the state took away from us from last year. It's not in the budget for this year from the state, and it's the supplemental revenue that we received for losing all that tangible personal property tax when it was voted out, and that businesses and industry do not have to pay that on inventory and equipment. You know, great for the businesses and things, bad for the recipients of those taxes. And so we're down $322,000 from the previous year. With that, we received a little more in state funding, but we lost $322,000 from that. If you look down under property tax allocation, one more, Taylor, that number right there, as you can see, that goes down from the previous year. It goes down each year after that. That's the tangible tax loss that the state has taken away from us, and we'll be 53,000. Went from $1.6 million a few years ago down to $53,000 in 2021. So we're severely losing revenue, which is just a kick in the tail. Because how else are we going to make up that money that the state is taking away from us? That's our challenge. I think we've done a pretty good job the last few years. If you look down under the expenses, under personnel services down there, Taylor, so in personnel services and the retirements and health insurance, those numbers have gone down from the previous year. So there was 27 pays last year. That's one reason. But we're trying to keep those salary and insurances under control. We joined Suburban Health Consortium last year on a yearly basis, saved us $250,000. You know, that's a great way to save expenses and not have to go back for that kind of revenue. Just historically, those things rise along with other expenses of the schools, but we'll try to keep that under control. So basically, just year to year, we're going to try to get by and do everything we can. There's some work with our state representative and senator and the board and Dr. Glykoff to see if we can get some more money from the state. You keep your fingers crossed if that could possibly happen. So we're working in many different ways to try to cut expenses and increase revenue. So this year we look pretty good, and then we'll hope that some more revenue would come in from the state. And, that number that's negative for next year of expenses over revenues, that we can turn that around a little bit and get it closer to a balanced budget. So Anybody have any questions? I went through that quick, but it can be pretty boring, so you can ask any questions that you might have.
I have a question.
Good.
John and Dr. Glykoff, I was reading where next month when we go to OSBA that on the platform agenda is a resolution from OSBA that the state change its formula or how it reimburses school districts from the casino revenue and the gambling revenue. And I always thought it was on a per capita basis, but apparently it's not. It's discretionary in terms of allotment. And OSBA is asking that the money be divvied up on a per student basis based on the population of the district. Has that changed?
I had not seen that, and, it's been long enough since that was enacted that I don't recall how that's distributed now. We received $65,000, so it's great that we get that. It's not a significant source of revenue. I'd hate to lose it, but I can look into that, Mr. Singer, and see what that proposal is.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
John, that number in line 1, the 12 million real estate taxes, what does that percentage reflect of collections?
So there, about 4 years ago, the county was collecting, when the recession was still pretty bad. About 4 years ago, the county was collecting about 89% of the available revenue from Brooklyn taxpayers, whether it be residents or businesses. And now the county is saying that they are collecting at about a 95% rate.
Okay.
So I think along with the recovery of the economy, people are doing a little bit better, I hope. And the collections, people are able to pay real estate taxes, and that increases that number.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one more question of John. John, I don't want to set you up here, but I'm going to set you up.
That's a great opening.
Go ahead.
I actually had a...
He doesn't want to, but he's going to do it anyhow.
Well, I had a parent ask me this question, and I have to apologize to everybody out there in the audience that maybe we should do a little bit better job of telling people how this permanent improvement levy works. But, she asked me an interesting question. She said, why didn't we, when we built a new school, just increase the amount of money we're asking the voters to approve and increase the bond money so that we could fix the roof of the high school? And I told her, I said, it's a very good question. And I thought, bring it out and then have you give the answer as to why we couldn't increase, the amount that we asked the voters for initially.
Dr. Glykoff and I were not here at that time. We have had some discussions about that. And the thing that I would say, just out of my experience over the last many years of being a treasurer, is that that it probably was felt that an extra million or $1.5 million to repair a roof might not have passed on the bond issue, so they probably said, this is the amount that we think will pass, so let's do it. And it didn't, and then it didn't take into, it just built this building. It didn't take into account the high school, the things that needed to be done with the high school. It's tough when you get in those situations, because I'm sure they thought about all the things that they would like to be able to do, but how much would be palatable to the voters to be able to pass at the time. So that's my best explanation without knowing for sure. That's my guess.
Weren't we at the maximum though, too?
Right.
I thought we were
Total
also...
valuation times 9%.
We couldn't ask for more if we wanted to, because I thought we were at the max.
From what I recall being told during the transition, that we were at a max that they could only go for 26 million in terms of the bonds. And so they couldn't go in much higher because of you can only go to so much on your debt limit. And I think that's where the 26 million came in.
9% of the total valuation, which
So-
was around about 291,000 at that time.
So that was
times
my
9%.
understanding, that there was a particular limit, and so it wasn't like, hey, let's put it up to 30 and we can do the high school roof and we can do, new paving, or we can do, but yeah, I think there was a particular cap on the debt limit on that.
And
Do you
that's,
remember we
and,
were
and that's
about-
why I told her, as the property values went down in Brooklyn, and then, where we thought we'd be able to get more money to put more money into the schools, we were actually reduced by quite a bit because valuation came down.
Right, plus the fact that previous auditor of the county overinflated everything. So when they had their readjustment, we woke up one morning and said we're now $300,000 poorer than we were the night before. So we had a readjustment of the whole property value thing, because we were at about 311 or 312.
Right.
Correct. It was 291, I think, was the total.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a better answer.
Oh, that was good, John, thank you. Okay, that's right on the money.
It's good to
You
have
wanna write
those-
that one down?
Yeah, good to have those
It was a
discussions.
test to see if you did.
And he failed.
Anybody else?
You get a C.
Not to put you on the spot, though, John.
Not to put you on the spot.
We'll give you a B
Set 'em
minus.
Anybody else? We're gonna move on to voting for it. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. Do we have any other business? We do.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Street, do we want to talk OSBA conference?
Yes, I have capital conference listed there for discussion.
OSBA, everybody's gonna make sure that they have the dates. Can we verify, send emails into, Mr. Street, yourself, whatever, just to verify, double check everybody's reservations / whatever?
Yeah, so if everybody would let me know what nights that they plan on being there.
Because I think, remember, the conference begins on a Sunday
Sunday morning.
this year, so it's a Sunday morning.
There's no early bird.
Yeah.
This year. And that, what day is that in November? It's the second Saturday, correct? It's after the election?
November 12th.
November 12th, yeah,
Right.
after the
Monday.
election.
Is that the Monday?
November 12th through
I think November.
Tuesday.
November.
It says
November
November
11th
12th
maybe?
through,
Is
through
the
Tuesday.
Saturday and then going down on Saturday, Sunday?
Starts Sunday morning.
Let's just,
Starts the 12th. Sunday the
Oh, that's Sunday the
12th.
12th,
And
okay.
then 13th and ends on
It- Yeah, s-
13th.
Sunday and it ends on Tuesday.
Right.
So they've shortened it up by request. And so we would stay Sunday and Monday if everybody was gonna go for the full array of things. So Sunday night and Monday night, I know everybody can't always go. And then I think we were talking about getting together as a board for some meetings on a Saturday.
Yeah, we were thinking about meeting down there Saturday,
Mhm.
perhaps.
so everybody check with John. Everybody will send you an email or yourself.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's send John, what everybody's intentions are of what nights they're gonna be there, so that we can make arrangements.
Okay. All right, everybody good? All right. Next thing is we need to schedule a work session after or before that. So get out your calendar, no, you don't have to get out your calendars right now, but I will send everybody a text message, email, and just say, we need a work session at, what's today's date, the 17th?
Today's the 17th.
Probably try to do one before we go to Columbus as well, okay? And then look at your dates, send me dates that you're available. We have to do a work session, we have some
Between the
projects.
7th and the time we leave?
No, before then, I said like starting
Whatever.
the 23rd on to.
Next week, whenever.
The 3rd.
Just whatever's convenient.
10th is when I think
I'll
it's
send
good.
you everybody a text tomorrow, and we'll just sort of get that moving, all right? Anything else?
Nothing here.
Announcement of the next regular meeting of the Board of Education is going to be Tuesday, November 21st, 2017, in the Media Center located in the Brooklyn Intermediate/Elementary School, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, at 6 p.m. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.